The overestimation. I'm 38 now. I thought I had a perfect life with a loving husband, 2 lovely kids at 3 and 6, a job I love and supportive parents living nearby. But my marriage is nearly non-physical. We had slept together once every 1 to 3 months, and every time it only lasts for about 1 to 3 minutes. That's it. I never enjoyed it, you can imagine. I know he should go and see a doc, but we never brought this issue up. I felt I didn't really needed bonding in my life at all. My husband loves me. He kisses me, hugs me, and does anything else he could do to express his love with me, but just not via enjoyable bonding. I had been living in peace and happiness until one day I had a crush on Jay, who is 46 and also had a perfect family with 2 kids, 9 and 6. We fell in love with each other at the first sight and couldn't control ourselves. We struggled, tried hard to persuade each other we had families and didn't have any future together. We gave ourselves a lot of stops, but finally we went off track. I never thought I would be cheating in my life, not to say after 10 years of marriage, the same as him. We now become business partners. We got to know each other because we both had a business in the same industry. We work really hard, managing work and staff well together. We admire each other and we have great bonding. We now go to hotels 1 to 2 times every week. To be honest, the first time in my life I realized I want bonding, and it's so beautiful. I did try sleeping with my husband again, but we just couldn't physically do it. I didn't feel like being connected with him anymore, and this time it was not only him but me being completely dry and couldn't make it. We had to stop in the middle as I felt so hurt. Since then, we haven't had slept for several months, and I feel he wouldn't ask for it anymore. I admit I did something wrong. I should have controlled myself, but Jay is so attractive to me and he loves me so much. He said he was so worried about me finally leaving him, then he would feel he had nothing left. Jay looks like a very tough and strong-minded businessman, but he has a very soft heart which he hadn't shown to anyone for years except me. Jay and his wife don't really talk at home. She thinks her kids and housework are kind of burden to her. The most enjoyable thing for her is to watch TV till midnight. About 10 months ago, Jay found her wife some weird behaviors and he suspected she had a soulmate at work, but he never had any interest to find out what's happening because he planned to give up his marriage now. She got more and more impatient with him, yelled for little things and got angry easily, which just made him more determined for leaving his marriage. I know Jay truly loves me and he wants to develop a serious relationship with me. He starts closing another business and is planning to sell his investment property. He also started talking with his parents and some important relatives and friends about his marriage, and all of them are now aware of the possibility of their breaking up. He even kept writing some notes to his wife and said he would send them to her when it's the time. I don't know what he was writing about, but all were related to ending the relationship. I know his most concerns are about his kids, and I know he loves them so much. This is the last thing he cares about in his family. But he said he would figure out a way to minimize the impacts on kids. He never promised anything to me. He said he didn't want to put any pressure on me. Once I asked him if I didn't get divorced, what would he choose to do? He answered me, very firmly, he would still do it. I know he is now very determined to go ahead. He knows it's harder to be the first person stepping out of the marriage, and he is facing a risk as if I didn't leave my husband in the end. But he is doing it now. I'm now feeling completely lost. I don't want to hurt my husband and my kids. They have not faulted in the whole thing. It was all because me being so greedy and couldn't control myself. If I broke up with my husband, the kids would suffer what they shouldn't go through in their life, and I'm not sure if I can manage such a complicated new relationship. And with 4 kids, Jay and I both get along very well. With the others' kids now, but being stepmother, father would be totally different. If I stayed in my marriage, I don't know how to face Jay in my heart. His life would be totally destroyed by me. Furthermore, can I cope with my non-physical marriage in future after feeling so great of bonding and feeling eager to have regular bonding? I'm not confident to go ahead with Jay, neither do I feel confident to stay in my marriage. What should I think and what should I do? Any words, advice and help would be much appreciated. I know there is no excuse for making a mistake. I think the emotional separation with my husband was from 3 years ago when he betrayed me while I was pregnant and gave birth to my son. I found it out when my son was 2 months old, and it had been for more than half a year. He said he never thought of leaving me or the family and he would stop it straight away. It looked like he returned to family and deleted all the conversations they had in his phone. But I found I couldn't trust him anymore, and I started withdrawing my dependence on this relationship. Our non-physical marriage was more from this, I think. We had some talks about our marriage last year and we both realized it was getting worse. When I mentioned the affair, he hadn't asked him when he stopped it. He admitted it took some while, which was not straight away. I was very determined I would spoil myself and develop my independence so I could always live a happy life without anyone's love. I left my previous job in government, started my own business, regularly went to gym, bought beauty products and jewelry for myself, and did everything for self-construction. I feel he still tries to hide his phone or pretends he is not playing his phone when he finds I'm watching him. He explained he was not talking with anyone, but he didn't want me to think he was talking with someone, so he was nervous. Anyway, it doesn't make any sense to me. But I know all of these shouldn't be an excuse for my affair. I don't have any reason to do it just because he did it, or maybe he's doing it. Actually, it's not relevant. The relevant excuse is no matter how strong you are, as a human, we all have our weak points and they show time to time. I should have controlled myself better, and I'm thinking hard to find out why I couldn't. Why I did such a wrong thing, what was the real trigger, and how I could let it develop so madly. I need to find out. I don't feel comfortable with being judged, especially when people just read you through a few sentences. But I know everyone has their own way to understand other marriages and relationships and expresses their points or anger or whatever. It's really not easy to give a full picture of what my actual marriage is and what kind of person I am. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm here not for gaining any understanding, maybe just trying to make myself clearer by writing down what I experienced. If after talking with my husband we decide to divorce, I won't go to jail. This is not my plan. I reckon anyone who tried hard to get out of her marriage wouldn't rush in another. I will give myself several years to recover and to find the best way to look after my kids first. If after several years, I feel Jay is the right person and he still loves me, it's not late to consider a plan. Talking about kids, my daughter had some issues getting along with my husband. I know he loves her, but she seems never got it. I can't believe a 6-year-old girl asked her mom to leave her dad, and she said it several times before. When I decided to talk with my husband about my affair, I firstly talked with my daughter. I wanted to make sure she was not too surprised and she was okay with it. I said, I feel I cannot get along with your dad. It seems we are not very close anymore, and I'm thinking of a separation. What do you think? My daughter answered, I feel the same. Can I go with you? I cannot get along with him as well, and he always gets angry with me. And she thought about her brother and suggested they could stay together and swap places in moms and dads. She firmly told me she was okay with it and asked me when I planned to talk with dad. I was so shocked by her reaction and didn't want her to be too concerned, so I said, I'm still thinking about it. She then said, do talk to him when we get back. If you forget it, I will remind you. I love Jay, but I also love my husband and children. I know Jay's intentions are good and he truly wants to be with me, but I can't shake off the guilt and the thought of breaking up not just my marriage but his as well. I can't help but think of the impact it would have on our children and how it would affect them for the rest of their lives. I decided to talk to a therapist about my feelings and the situation. It was a difficult decision, but it was the best one I could make. Through therapy, I was able to understand my feelings better and come to terms with the fact that I had been suppressing my desires for a long time. I also came to realize that my feelings for Jay were not just physical, but also emotional. It was a complicated situation, and my therapist helped me navigate through it. In the end, I realized that I couldn't continue living a lie. I sat down with my husband and had a difficult conversation about our relationship and the lack of physical intimacy. It was hard, but it was necessary. He was understanding and we decided to work on our marriage together. We went to see a doctor and found out that he had a medical condition that was causing his lack of desire. With treatment, he was able to regain his function, and we were able to reconnect with each other in a way we hadn't in years. As for Jay, I made the difficult decision to end our relationship. It was not an easy decision, but it was the right one. He was understanding, and we parted ways on good terms. We still work together, but we maintain a professional relationship. I learned that the grass is not always greener on the other side. I had been so focused on what I thought was missing in my life that I didn't realize what I already had. My husband, my children, and my family and friends are the most important things in my life. I am grateful for the experience and the lessons I learned, but I am also grateful for the second chance I was given in my marriage. I will not make the same mistake again, and I will work hard to make sure my marriage is strong and healthy. I know that Jay and his wife will also have to work through their issues, and hopefully, they will find a way to make their marriage work. I hope they can find the happiness they are looking for, just as I have found it in my own life. I have come to realize that life is not perfect, but it is full of opportunities for growth and happiness. I will continue to work on myself and my marriage, and I will not take anything for granted. I will appreciate the love and support of my family and friends, and I will strive to be the best version of myself that I can be. Update: it's been a few years since I made the difficult decision to end my relationship with Jay and work on my marriage. At first, things were going well. My husband and I were making an effort to reconnect and build a stronger relationship. But, as time went on, I found myself feeling restless and unsatisfied again. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was missing in my life. One day, I met someone new at a business conference. He was charming, attractive, and attentive. Before I knew it, we were having an affair. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't help myself. I was caught up in the thrill of it all and didn't think about the consequences. I was eventually caught by my husband. He was devastated and hurt. He couldn't believe that I had cheated on him again, especially after everything we had been through. I tried to explain to him that I was struggling with my own issues, but he didn't want to hear it. He filed for divorce and took everything from me. Our house, the cars, the kids, and even my business. I was left with nothing. It was a humbling and difficult experience. I had to start over from scratch. I moved into a small apartment and had to find a new job. I didn't see my kids as much as I wanted to, and it was hard being apart from them. I was also struggling with feelings of guilt and shame. I knew that I had made a huge mistake and that it had hurt the people I loved the most. I decided to seek therapy again to help me work through my feelings. I realized that I had not fully dealt with my past issues and that I had been using my affairs as a way to escape my problems. I learned that I needed to take responsibility for my actions and work on myself if I wanted to heal and move on. I also reached out to my husband and apologized for my actions. I understood that he had every right to be angry and hurt, but I hoped that he could forgive me. He was still angry, but he slowly started to come around and we could have a conversation at least. I made the decision to focus on rebuilding my life. I worked hard to regain the trust of my clients and coworkers, and I eventually started my own business again. I also made an effort to be more present and involved in my children's lives. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. I have come to realize that I can't change the past, but I can change the future. I have learned the hard way that life is fragile and that it's important to cherish the people we love and the life we have. I will always regret my actions, but I hope that through my mistakes, others can learn from my experience. I hope that my husband and children will be able to forgive me and that we can rebuild our relationship. I know that it will take time and effort, but I am willing to do whatever it takes to make it right. My comment: you need to fix yourself before other people can fix you. Take your time slowly and one day, either your husband forgives you or you participate in a healthier relationship. Story 2. It's getting more difficult. I am dazed and confused, and every other emotion I can think of. I thought he was a really good man. I thought he was the type who honored marriage and held it in high regards. I thought he was committed. The list goes on and on. We were friends or dated for a year and a half before getting married. We were married in January 2021. Now, just 9 months later and he is gone. Done. It's over. He was a thoughtful and kind man. We have both been married before, and I have 3 kids living at home. He was nice to them. A little more demanding than I am. I am a pretty laid-back mom. Through the course of our short marriage, things went from really good to absolutely awful. The kids and I could do nothing right in his eyes. The house was always too messy, even if that just meant a cup on the counter. Shortly after getting married, he stopped being thoughtful and kind. Everything changed. If any of my family came over, or even one of my 2 older kids who don't live at home, he would hole up in the bedroom and act angry at me. Anything that anybody did wrong was my fault. Then he started going to the store in the evenings when I wanted us to spend time together. He would take an abnormally long time, and if I asked what took so long, there would always be a reason. He couldn't find what he needed, or he ended up stopping at another store, or whatever. I asked if he would just please text me and let me know. Well then, I was accused of being controlling. To keep this short, for the last 6 weeks it seems like he has purposely picked fights. They continued to escalate until Labor Day night. He was being so mean, saying everything that he knew would hurt me the most. Then came up with some crazy stuff, saying I am fraudulent, delusional, a liar, and enabler, and on and on. He was talking in this strange mocking voice and cussing and swearing, which I have very rarely heard him do. I was asking, telling, begging him to stop fighting with me. Finally, I had had it and told him, if you don't like me and don't want to be here, then leave. He bolted out of bed, grabbed an armful of stuff and was out the door. And then, he ignored me for a solid week. I texted him once every day with a message that read, please do not come home when the kids are here unless you are ready to figure our marriage out nicely. Without mocking, without name calling, nothing, for a solid week. When he finally did respond back, he said he wanted to come get his stuff without a hassle. That was Tuesday. It is Thursday and there has been no talk about fixing anything or him coming back. I gave him some of his clothes on Tuesday, even after he was very rude and said I was holding his stuff hostage. Blah blah blah. When I asked why he is ending our marriage, he said, I'm not ending our marriage. Explain that. Anyways, I have no idea what is going on. I just know this sucks and I hurt bad. I asked tonight if there is another woman. His reply was, no, your imagination and fear are still unchecked and uncontrolled. He hasn't been home in over 10 days now. And that is his reply. He also referred to me as his enemy tonight. So incredibly hurt. He has serious complaints about me. His biggest complaint is about my parenting. And it is probably the most valid. I don't punish my kids often. If they do something wrong, I usually talk to them and assign them extra chores. Occasionally they get grounded from electronics, but for the most part they don't care about video games and TV. My kids are on the outspoken side, a little wild, and very adventurous. I like them that way, and he was well aware of it before marrying me. His other complaints about me are nonsense in my opinion. I would love to hear other opinions. He says I am controlling because I expect him to let me know if he is going to be late getting home. He says I am controlling because I want to know where he is during the day. He is self-employed. I don't expect a step-by-step narrative, but a general idea would be nice. Most of the time when I asked what he did that day, it was out of general conversation, not some sort of interrogation. I cannot help but wonder if he does project his issues onto me and my kids. He was allowed to make any mess he wanted. OMG, you would not believe how much crap he had in our backyard that he was working on and getting ready to sell. It was disgusting and embarrassing. But then he would be upset about a pair of kids' socks in the living room. His stuff was piled on his dresser and in a laundry basket. But everyone else had to have their things put away at all times unless they were using it right that second. He harped on my boys for not finishing projects, but it took him over 6 weeks to do a simple brake job on a car. In the last big fight, he called me fraudulent. I honestly have no idea where that came from. But he has been charged with fraud in the past, although he was not criminally convicted. In the last fight he called me a liar. I try very hard to be honest at all times, but I have caught him in several lies lately. He said I extort. Again, no clue what he is referring to. Really don't know of him extorting anything either though, although it's closely tied to fraud. Oh my goodness, so many issues. It's really exhausting. I want to be sleeping right now. 5 hours till I need to be up for work. But I'm having trouble, so I might as well write. Okay, the delusional. He thinks I don't know what love is. He says that I think it is supposed to be warm and mushy and romantic all the time. That is not what I think, but I know love is not how he has been treating me lately. I think the delusional also refers to me thinking that my kids are good kids. This is just my best guess because I'm really not sure. When I ask him to explain or give an example, he just tells me to figure it out myself. Enabler, definitely about my kids. He says I enable to lie and get away with anything they want. Admittedly, I could be a better mother, no doubt about it, and I am sure they lie, fib, or otherwise skew the truth at times. But if I catch them, they do get in trouble for that. I do not like liars, and by trouble, I mean a lecture about how bad lying affects lives. And extra work to do. A liar, he did give one example of this. He says I lie because I allow my kids to listen to country music when he is not around but will turn it off when he is in the car or the house. I have never agreed to not let them listen to country music. I don't allow rap in my house, but husband thinks we should only listen to Christian music. Nothing else. I simply don't agree. Never have, never will. I will agree that Christian music is the most wholesome, but that's as far as that goes. As far as wanting to know where he is. We live in a small town. Occasionally he needs to drive to one of the bigger towns. One is almost 2 hours away. The other is about 30 minutes away. It would be nice to know when he goes to those places. It's a safety thing to me. If he didn't come home, where do I begin to look? There are a lot of deer around here and so forth, plus really spotty cell service if something did happen. Really, other than that, it was general communication. Hey, I'm headed here and I expect to be gone for several hours. For months he cooked dinner every night. It was great. I was going to school full-time and just graduated in May. But after months of cooking every night, sometimes I would get home from a long day of school and it's 8 p.m. and kids haven't eaten yet and husband is nowhere to be found and didn't tell anyone where he was going. Now the kids, they are old enough and they are capable of feeding themselves. It is one of those communication things that would be nice to know though. When I was a single mom, my kids knew that if I wasn't home by 6 and they didn't smell dinner, they better get themselves something. We all came to rely on his cooking, but then it became sporadic and eventually stopped. My kids living at home are 16, 13, and 10. I have 2 on their own who are 19 and 18. Other issues he could resent me for. I have a really close male friend who has been in my life for 7 years now. I do still talk to him and H got upset about it once. We talked about it and it seemed settled. H didn't care if I talked to him as long as I didn't talk about us. And we have an open cell phone, email policy. Although I rarely looked at his stuff, but he often looked at mine, although he would do it in secret even though I knew he was doing it. I don't like the church he chose for us to go to. I was going to another with my kids until we were married and he basically told me go to whatever church you want. But he would be going to that one. I wanted to go as a family, so I started going to the one he wanted to go to. I have asked him to stop talking to one woman. He was flirting with her and I told him I didn't like it. Ironically, since he has left, 3 of my boys have mentioned how much he would flirt when I wasn't with him. We were renting a tiny 3-bedroom house and one of his complaints was that there wasn't enough room for his kids to come visit comfortably. He has 4 kids ages 10 to 17. So, after I graduated and I got a job, I found a house 15 minutes closer to my work. A very large 6-bedroom house. I thought it was perfect. He didn't want it. He found another small 3-bedroom house that he wanted. Essentially, I made the final call on which house to rent and he was not very happy about it. There were reasons I chose it. Location, schools. I don't think we would have been approved for the one he wanted. I accused him of cheating once. He told me he would be home by 10:30 p.m. I woke up at 12:30 and he wasn't home. He didn't respond to my calls or texts for another 45 minutes. And then it took another 30 minutes for him to come home from across town where he claimed to be picking up discarded furniture. I was irate by the time he got home. BTW. My ex cheated on me. I know I shouldn't carry that over to my H. Very hard not to when suspicious behavior pops up. He would punish them by taking freedoms away. Great, no problem. I know I could do better at my parenting and I could use the help with the kids. However, he would ground them from everything. For anything they did wrong. There is a warning first, but if it ever happens again there must be a punishment. Not a single other warning. I'll be very honest. If I punished my kids the way he wants me to for every single thing they did wrong, they would have no possession and would always be grounded. There was no leeway at all. Maybe that is how parents are supposed to be. Maybe this is my delusional issue that he speaks of. So many adults, teachers, coaches, bosses, compliment my kids and how much they like my kids. Can I really be doing that bad of a job and have so many people adored my kids? Not to mention, with how long I was a single mom and parented my way, it would cause serious rebellion. We tried his way for about 3 months. I was awful. The kids lost respect for him, and they were quickly losing it for me too. It wasn't how our family functioned. My then 15-year-old even took off for several hours. I told H that I could not parent how he wanted me to. He backed off for a while, but I think ultimately he wanted me to do it his way. He essentially claims his kids are perfect, even though he will deny it if you ask him directly. But every time my kids would do something wrong, he would say his kids would never do something like that. I really do believe he wants out. Oh duh, he is out. But I know he has trouble accepting responsibility for his actions, and now he doesn't have to, in his mind, because I told him to leave. Since he started talking to me after the week of silence, he has been meaning. It's my fault he didn't have his belongings. It's my fault he has no money or a place to live, or food to eat. He had all his needs met, on my income, but he wanted out. Well, he got it, and I don't see any possible way of salvaging this marriage. I certainly can't save it alone. The church is very small with very few teenagers. The worship leader is, well, her singing hurts my ears, and there are differences in beliefs. Really only one that I can pinpoint, but it's a major one. More than anything, I was happy with the other one, and my boys were cooperative in going there. I left my lifelong religion about 2 years ago, and it has been a major adjustment for my children and me. To have him just decide one day to attend another one with no discussion or anything else was very frustrating. I could feel my kids withdrawing from me. It was not good. I could not keep doing it my husband's way. You can certainly overpunish, and that is what happened with my then 15-year-old. With him grounded from everything, there was no reason to listen at all. So, I essentially bribed him to be good by lessening his punishment duration. Kind of a reduced sentence for good behavior. My H said that made me untrustworthy because I didn't keep my word in the original punishment. Which reminds me, that was another thing he called me dishonest about. My older 2 kids live 2 hours away and often come home for the weekend. If I forgot to mention it to my H, then I was hiding it from him and thus cannot be trusted. I didn't purposely hide anything from him. There were times I waited to tell him something. Like when I found out I passed a really big exam. When I do the results, H was mad at me about something, and when he is mad, he ignores me. I was so excited that I passed the test but didn't want to tell him and have him ignore me. So, I told my kids, friends, who were all excited for me and congratulated me. So many issues. He had never told me good job for graduating. Didn't even say congratulations at my graduation. As a matter of fact, he left early from it. No pictures outside afterwards. Today I texted him and said, I am deeply sorry for any hurt, injury, or damage I have caused you, and I forgive you. The response about 30 minutes later was thank you. After all, there is nothing he might to apologize for. Right, I am hurt and sad, but I do forgive him, because I cannot hold on to that bitterness. But don't worry, I will be reading up on the 180 tonight. As difficult as it might be, I will not take him back. I will not ask him to come back, and I will not allow him back. Too much has happened. As good as things were in the beginning, they have been so horrible the last couple of months. The pain sucks right now, but I know my children and I are better off without him. I fully mourn the loss and cry often. However, I realize the loss is of a short-lived fantasy. I will not miss the reality. It's very frustrating that there was not more effort or communication on his part. It's frustrating that he can just walk away without another concern. Me, I have to juggle being a single mom again. I guess in the end I was playing that role anyways. I just wonder, how would he react if a man did the same thing in his kids' lives? There are no consequences for him, just for my children and me. I have no idea how I could possibly trust my judgment of a man again in the future. I think he is fully expecting that I will take him back at any time. I'm sure he is also expecting that I will start begging for him to come back soon. I am printing and filling out divorce papers today. I don't think I need an attorney, but I guess time will tell on that. Don't know that I can really afford one too easily. I have a plan in place to have him served next weekend. Just need to find the person to do it. My case seems open and shut, black and white. He's no good, be happy he is gone. Get over it. If only it was that simple. My mind tells me that I am better off, that it doesn't matter what he is doing or who he is with. My heart begs for who he was to come back. My friends are probably tired of listening to me go on. Oh, how I wish I could just turn it off. I wish I could stop from feeling, stop from thinking, stop from wishing. He was at the store tonight. Yep, I approached him and asked him if we are ever going to talk. He went right back to his stuff. Is that really all that matters to him? It is clear he is living somewhere. He is clean shaven, her hair is fixed nicely, his clothes are clean. It's been 1 month today since he left. He was buying kids' toys. For his kids, maybe, for other women's kids. I almost think that is more likely. It would be so much easier if he would just tell the truth. Whatever it is, if he doesn't love me, if he never loved me, if there is someone else, if he hates me, whatever it is, I wish he would just say it. Part of me thinks it is just more emotional torture, that is the real reason he won't talk. It would be so much easier for me if I just heard him tell me how it is. He has until October 13th to respond to the divorce papers. My birthday is the 12th. I have a feeling that will be his birthday present to me. Most likely at work because he knows I won't be able to hold back the tears. I was thinking about going out of town for the 12th and 13th just to not have to deal with that possibility on my birthday. Good idea or bad idea? I am tired of hurting. He isn't even from this town. I wish he would leave. I met him to talk. He finally agreed to talk in person for the first time since he left. It was exactly what I needed. He admitted to being verbally and emotionally abusive. He admitted to being a hypocrite. He admitted to many things. And then he proceeded to tell me he has not and will not seek help. But he wanted to know what I have done, am doing, and will do to fix my issues. It was more of the same garbage. He doesn't need to change, but I do. The divorce is my fault. I caught him in multiple lies while we sat there talking. He skated around so many questions, refusing to directly answer them. He was royally pissed off that I sent his kids gift cards for Christmas even though, or maybe especially since, he didn't do anything for them. His kids know nothing about us getting a divorce. He hasn't told his family, etc. So, tomorrow at 9 a.m. I will be in court for the divorce. I have a feeling he will show up and try to pull something. I hope not. I really needed the talk. It was like I needed to see once and for all that this is who he is. That it wasn't errors and miscommunication in email. I needed to see that he is aware of his issues and simply does not care and will not take responsibility for them. The last thing he said to me was, "Go to hell." Such a loving Christian man he is. T still amazes me how much he got into my mind and was able to essentially control me. I went to a counselor for months telling her that he was wonderful and that all the issues were because of me. Talk about feeling crazy. Once I finally saw him for who he is, it has been a continuous process of stepping out of the fog. Sometimes it was 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. So glad the divorce is done. I have no obligation to talk to him, love him, try to fix him. None of it helped anyways. He is a man with severe issues. I may not have been a perfect wife, but the divorce was not my fault. The major issues were not my fault. My comment doesn't feed into the idea that it's your fault. It's just an endless loop. You can only do better in the present, and in the future, you can't do better in your past. You guys enjoyed these too. Comment down and I will see you in the next one.